Hello everyone, I'm Tanya Janitzos and I'm a student of 2018's Project Lead the Way Engineering Design and Development class. And throughout this video, I will be showing you the project that I worked on year long and my process to create it. So initially, my thoughts on this project, I knew I wanted to go the architectural route. It had to be useful for all in the community. Obviously, it would have to have a modern design, but also fit in the New England surroundings it is. And also, if it could be cost efficient or energy efficient, that would be great. Now, for ideas of the actual project, I thought maybe a tiny house, as it is, on the craze of being popular now. Or Euro Cafe Lounge would definitely benefit the community as I go in the summer traveling. This is definitely something widely used in the community. Thought that would be great to introduce to our culture. But what I settled on was to modernize Old Saybrook Main Street. As Old Saybrook is such an amazing town and also has a great location, I thought, definitely utilizing the waterfront and also modernizing it to capture that New England charm it has would be great for me to try my hand at. I just looked at some, for inspiration, some, buildings in Amsterdam as we were colonized by the Dutch to get that, New England feel, as well as some, best main streets in the U.S., this one being in Michigan. Now for my problem statement, showing that recent statistics show that since 2012, tourism decreased 11% in the winter and 7% in the summer of the town of Old Saybrook. A more lucrative main street is needed to increase tourism income while accommodating old communities in town and to bring in more outside visitors. And to justify this project, to create a more modern and functional main street for Old Saybrook that promotes the town's revenue through the tourist attractions. And basically, this redesign and relocation for Old Saybrook's current main street is to achieve a greater experience for the tourists and locals to enjoy, basically to highlight the cultural, historical, recreational, and business aspects of the town, and also to contain more housing units to bring in larger populations. The main street will contain more housing units to bring in larger populations of families by connecting where you live, work, and play in the street. It's also to just bring back the liveliness of the street and prosperity of the population in town. And this is just a quick glance of a Gantt chart that I created for me to stay on task to complete this project in over a year's span. Now, before I went into actually designing this new main street, I had to first gain more knowledge on the marketplace. For the existing Old Saybrook Main Street, it basically just fails to reel in and meet and have the recreational needs for the youth population. Obviously, it doesn't bring in as much tourism income each year. It also doesn't utilize the waterfront that we have for such a great location. It would definitely benefit the atmosphere and attraction to the community. And also, the aesthetic of the street isn't as modern as it could be. Just on a broad scale, evaluating the competition, Connecticut generally doesn't compare to its neighboring states of New York and Massachusetts income. While we have 14 billion, New York has 61, and Massachusetts 28 billion. And the state's income hasn't really grown since 2012 and it's been at a standstill. And just looking at a closer look of some other towns that have great main streets, and what they all have in common is that even though they have small populations, they still manage to keep their charm in providing multiple attractions for tourists and the locals, as well as Mystic using their waterfront and capitalizing and creating attractions out of that. And just all of these places having unique opportunities for people to live and have fun, and also take in the town's cultural aspects as well. Now, looking at the market, I wanted to target more of a youth population since it only accounts for 15% in Old Saybrook. But most importantly, early parents, the 25 through 34 age, that only account for 8%. And this is important because the more we can bring in more settling families, the more population and basically more people to work and also to provide income for the town, as well as touching on the diverse and cultural community, as well as more people that are state residents to keep more people in Connecticut. And while conducting market research, I've also seen, just from my personal opinion and observation, the age group of people on Main Street are on average a part of the older population. There's a huge gap of foot traffic from the summer to the slow winter, and even so, the summer could be busier. And there's just barely any nightlife, or just not as lively as it could be for such a pretty town Old Saybrook is. I also conducted a survey of 25 students in Old Saybrook High School to see what they like of our current Main Street and what they don't like. Also seeing what they wish was added to a Main Street if it was, redone. Also if they would like a waterfront to the Main Street. Now that I did all the research and enhancing my knowledge on the marketplace, I started my design process. And first, I basically had to create a order list of the places I wanted to include in the Main Street, including food, shops, civic services, attractions, activity centers, stands. Also just thinking of features to make it energy efficient, aesthetic features, how it would structure the roads and the pedestrians, and also the advantage of the outdoor space and waterfront, and also using advanced technologies throughout the street to make it more modern. Now for initial sketches, I basically just drew out a plan of what the street would function as well as things would go, and some ideas of how the environment would look, as well as what the buildings would look like. Then I basically put these ideas into the computer software Revit, and I basically just created a simple floor plan of where all the structures would go, as well as the road and pedestrian relationship. Also in Revit, I did renderings to visually represent not only the street, but also the different styles of buildings, textures, the materials, and the different plantings I had in the street. Here you could see the Welcome to Old Saybrook sign, giving a warmer welcome. You could see the different kinds of plantings that I put throughout the street, also the different styles of the buildings, giving a more sleek look, but also using those coastal New England color palette, as well as the style of the windows and all the stone. Also, you could see I used wider lanes for the cars, as well as medians, not only for them to separate the roads, but also for people to walk on and in, as well as incorporating more space for plants and trees to reside. Also giving bikers their own lanes, and also protected by bollards so they feel more encouraged to bike, an energy efficient solution. Also, not only having the medians just there, but for people to also walk in them, obtaining that space that it could be used for. People can walk down in this space or walk over it. Just another place for people to enjoy their time in the street, getting food or just studying, doing whatever they want in this space, whether it's night or day. Also, you could see that it has many varieties of buildings, staying true to the New England style, but also having modern takes of the glass, as well as this new modern library, and hopefully being as big and modern it is, more people would use it, as it is a problem in our community, for more people to obtain the resources that they have, and also get help, whether it's, scholastic or anything like that. Also, these roads being solar. So not only it being an energy efficient solution, but also in the winter when snow falls on them, they could just melt themselves, so that's another plus. As well as having this fork down here in the street being a place not only for pedestrians, more to walk in this grass area. Underneath this topographic hill, there's stores, but people could walk up and down to tennis courts, basketball courts, playgrounds, just having more space to play, which having a better and more efficient town green is definitely needed. As well as down the strip, there's docks for boats to get more people to, come in from all sorts of the area and have more people enjoy that luxury of having their boats too. Also here is the Ramblas style parking, which is greatly used in Spain. And this is just for people to park in the medians, and then once they're done, they could just pull out into the next lane. It works very well in Spain, and I know it could here too. Now, this is just a quick glance, and I hope that these modernizations and also better use of in the environment would make a more enjoyable space for not only the tourists to come check it out, but also the locals. Now, I also made a physical model of my project, putting it in 1 1/40 inch scale to fit the whole street in a physical model. So I used multiple materials such as foam core, chipboard, felt paper, and basically anything so I could create my street with a welcoming sign, different types of sidings, and also buildings. In this model, I played with different roofs from gable to low slope to also shed, which I depicted in the Revit models. I stacked chipboard to create the topography of the street for the hill of the green, also representing the docks and the boats to dock there to get to the street. Also the long pier off of the main street as something to look at the end towards, and also the relationship from the street and the waterfront of the location. And also you could see that the white buildings in the model, those are representing the buildings that already exist. So this is how it would fit into the main street already. Thank you for watching, and hopefully you enjoyed my take on modernizing Old Saybrook Main Street.